University's Center for Psychiatric Rehabilitation's goal is to connect our viewers with supportive resources in the community and to help individuals enhance their career development and overall well-being. Everyone can be successful with the right support.
In the last ditch, I think of you. I think of you. Yeah, in the last ditch, I will be true.
Good afternoon and welcome to Employment for All. My name is Kim Bissett and I'm here to help you get a job, change jobs, or advance in the job you currently have. Each week we bring you interesting and informative guests here at Employment for All, and this week is no exception. I'd like to welcome Annabelle with the Department of Mental Health. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And Sufiya McClarence with the Transformation Center. We're very happy to have you here as well. Thank you. Welcome to you both. So let's start off. Sufiya, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm the Young Adult Outreach Facilitator at the Transformation Center. And also, I really have a passion for writing. That's what I ultimately want to do in life. And also, I enjoy going to the movies on my spare time.
Fantastic. Welcome. Annabelle.
I'm a management analyst at the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, and I enjoy spending time with my family and my friends, and I also enjoy reading.
Cool. Great. We're happy to have you both here. Tell us a little bit about your role, Annabelle, at the Department of Mental Health.
Sure. I work on two different initiatives for the Department of Mental Health. One is the Restraint and Seclusion Prevention Initiative in the Child and Adolescent Division, and then the other is the Transition Age Youth Initiative. And I do a lot of project management for both of those two initiatives.
Fantastic. And those are two very extremely important initiatives to help individuals move forward in their recovery.
Yeah.
Very good. And can you tell us a little bit, Sufiya, about your role at the Transformation Center?
Well, at the Transformation Center, my job is to recruit young adults to get involved with the movement and to also encourage them to stand up for their mental health rights.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about the Transformation Center? Because people may not be familiar.
That's true. The Transformation Center is a nonprofit organization, and basically they like to advocate for mental health rights. That's their main mission, and they also fundraise and do outreach events, and they also get people with lived experience the proper tools they need to get certified as young adults and people with lived experience.
Great. So they do kind of a certified peer specialist helping people take roles in the Department of Mental Health or other organizations. Fantastic. So they have a lot of different avenues that they help support people with lived experience.
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the grant. There's a one-year planning grant. Can you talk to us a little bit, Annabelle, about what is this grant and why it's important?
Sure. It's, like you mentioned, it's the Stay Together grant, which the STAY stands for Success for Transition Age Youth. And it was a one-year planning grant that's being funded by SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse for Mental Health Services Administration.
Quite a mouthful.
It's a mouthful,
SAMHSA.
Yeah. And with that grant, we're hoping to expand mental health services for transition age young adults, kind of the ages of 16 to 25, within Medicaid's Children's Behavioral Health Initiative, which is also known as CBHI.
Great. So that's important, kind of looking at where services, where have they been and how do we enhance them, right, is really a critical role. Sufiya, can you speak to us a little bit about what your experience with services has been and how could it kind of have been better?
Well, that's a good question, Kim. I started off using DMH services when I was, I would say, 15. So I got introduced to the system in high school, and during that time I went through multiple hospitalizations, and I found that it wasn't really helpful because it was just making me more depressed, and also I just didn't agree with the services that I was getting. I felt like I was had no say in it. I felt like you know, I was, I guess, put down a lot because of the stigma around mental health. And a lot of people, they see movies, they see, you know, TV, and then they think, oh, if this person has a disorder, they must be crazy, or like, you know, all types of things, serial killer, everything goes through their mind. So I kind of shied away from it after I went to the hospital going to therapy and going to psychiatry, because I mean at high school you don't even want to get caught like in the office, then have to explain yourself like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm here because, you know, I have schizophrenia or bipolar, and then everybody shuns you, you know? So it was a really tough and difficult time for me, but I actually made it through high school, graduated from an exam school, which I'm very proud of.
Fantastic.
And then, you know, in college, it just started over again. It was like a continuing cycle. The only time I managed to get better is when I actually, my fourth hospitalization, they told me that if you don't get better, you're gonna have to stay in permanent care and go to a state hospital.
Wow.
So that's when I realized that this is not how I wanna live my life. I have goals, I have dreams. So I just really tried really hard, and I got out of the hospital, and then I was introduced to a prep program called the SPA in Roxbury.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
They were actually really fantastic. The clinicians there, the clients there, I felt at home because people had similar disorders and they were able to relate. So through that, I joined the youth council at Prep. After the programs and groups they gave, they had a youth council, and then I got introduced to the statewide Young Adult Council, and then finally I got a job at the Transformation Center, which to me was remarkable from where I was and how far I came. I'm in college and everything, I'm back in college. So I just feel really blessed, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. So you finally found the right combination of supports.
I finally found it, and it was through this big recovery movement that they were doing at the Transformation Center. Actually, SAMHSA actually funded another grant that I worked with, Speaking of Hope, and I went around telling my recovery story, and I felt that like very freeing, and I got a lot of thanks from a lot of people because they thought it was so brave of me to come up and share my story, and they were going through the same thing, and then they were inspired to get involved. So I just thought it was a good process, and I'm so proud to be here, Kim, because you know I've been working there for over a year, and I feel really happy about how far I've come in my recovery.
Fantastic. And that's a huge part of the peer movement, is to have people tell their stories. Because one of the things, if you have a mental health illness, is you feel very isolated and you feel alone. But it sounds like through reaching out to others, you got a lot back, but you also helped to inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's not just people with mental health diagnosis that I inspired. I inspired others because they got more awareness of what mental health really is, and the stigma kind of started dropping and diminishing as much as I told my story. They're saying, well, she doesn't seem too different. We all have problems, we all have struggles, and she's just telling us to the extent of what she experienced. So it was really freeing.
Wow, that's a wonderful story, really, to help make it more inclusive, because we do, and that's the goal here at Employment for All, is to help people find out the supports, but to break down the stigma and help people say, well, everybody needs supports at some point in their lives. And we all suffer from all different challenges. So how do we access those supports without feeling like, oh, I'm going to be caught in the office, or, oh, someone's going to find out? That's terrible. We all need supports. How do we make these supports accessible to as many people as possible? And really the focus is, for this grant, young adults. So let's talk a little bit, Annabelle, about the goal of the grant.
Sure. Well, we want to definitely engage more young adults like Sufiya herself. We want to make sure we're more accessible. So the goal of this particular grant is to create a well, first we're going to try and develop a strategic plan, and with that strategic plan we want to create a system of care that will help increase the awareness of CBHI services and expand the services that are provided to that particular age group.
Okay. And let's just remind people what CBHI is. We have a lot of acronyms. No, I know we're alphabet soup, but as we can.
So CBHI stands for Children's Behavioral Health Initiative.
Fantastic. So we're trying to enhance services so that we reach out to more young adults, because a lot of young adults aren't aware of what services we provide, how to access them, and how to find their own way of communicating. You mentioned something, Sufiya, that I think is extremely important about youth voice. Can you speak to that?
Well, youth voice is vital, especially when we're creating this new system that works for everyone in as far as mental health. A lot of populations don't get the services they need. And to be inclusive, really young adults have to start saying, this is what we want, this is what you don't have, this is what I needed and I didn't get, because it helps them improve and it helps like the system improve. So it's like a win-win situation, and I think it's great. I think it's great to hear their voice, because every time you hear somebody else's story, you get more information and you're able to improve.
Absolutely. Everyone learns from other people and the examples that people share and say, oh, well, that worked for them in their recovery. Maybe I could try that. Or you know what? They're sharing that that didn't work. I don't need to go through that avenue. And that's the power of the peer movement. And we have utilized peers in so many other avenues of life. I mean, people have cancer support groups. People, if you have a new baby, a support group, a running group, an exercise fitness group, a nutrition group. So there are all different kinds of ways to improve ourselves where the peer movement has been vital. And really it's come to mental health issues so much later. So kind of figuring out how we can utilize that, I think, is going to be a key thing moving forward. So can we talk a little bit about ways for people, Annabelle, to be involved in the grant? If someone's interested, what are kind of the different committees that they might, that are out there, both to enhance the grant and kind of what's out there?
Sure. As far as the grant goes, we have several subcommittees, and one of them is a social marketing committee, and young adults can get involved through that committee. That committee is focused on increasing awareness of mental health, like Sufiya said, engaging and increasing the young adult voice, and doing that through the use of social media products like Facebook, Twitter, and videos, YouTube videos. The other committee involved is also the Cultural and Linguistic Competence Committee, and that committee is focused on making sure that as we go through this planning process with the Stay Together grant, that we really make sure we're respectful and attentive to the needs of culturally diverse youth and young adults. Other ways to get involved, like Sufiya mentioned, there are several different councils they can get involved with. Hopefully with Sufiya's help, we're going to create young adult groups actually within the community service agencies of CBHI and help sort of increase the youth voice, because they are, you know, like Sufiya said, the ones who really know what they need, and youth are the experts. So really tapping into their expertise on how to help enhance the services. So those are other ways to get involved, is through youth councils. The statewide young adult council that Sufiya mentioned, she's fantastic at facilitating for us. We meet once a month, and young adults can get involved through that way to help change policies and regulations as well.
Great. So you're providing the structure. So you're going to go out into the community service agencies and create actual young adult councils so that they know what's going on. Can you talk a little bit about the councils, Sufiya?
Well, that's actually where the Transformation Center is really putting their role in the grant, forming these YAGs, what they say, young adult groups. Okay. And it's good because we have a statewide young adult council, and it's really helped improve the system, DMH, and they really ask us questions, we ask them questions, and we work as a team. So with the YAG, hopefully that same effect will happen within the CSAs, the community service agencies.
Great, because it's very hard if you're a young adult and you're receiving services to kind of speak out on your own, because it's very intimidating. You've got these providers, and you know, in services past, sometimes you'd have a treatment team and you'd have all these experts, the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the person from where you're living, your parents, other people on the team, and they sometimes would ask the young adult to leave the room, and they'd talk amongst themselves and then say, come back in and we're going to tell you the solution. And a young adult would understandably be mad or irritated or frustrated. How can I leave the room, if it's supposedly youth-driven or person-centered, when I'm leaving the room? So we're trying to flip services kind of around to say, well, how do we access young adults? But if you've never created a plan for yourself, how do you do that? And if you've never really been encouraged to use your voice, these are ways to do that. If someone was interested in learning more about these committees, how would they find out? Sufiya, what would be the best way?
Well, I think they should contact. I think they should contact the Transformation Center. I think they should contact Youth Move, who is heading the other half of Massachusetts with the recruiting. The Transformation Center is more geared towards the Northeast, the Southeast, and Boston. So I think they should definitely contact either the Transformation Center or Youth Move, because that's a national chapter and they actually have that, and they're focusing more on Western Mass and Metro Suburban area. And they should also contact, I think, Annabelle, because she does a lot of work with the youth and the young adults around the grant and just like in general. That's her area in DMH. And they should also contact UMass Medical Research Program, because I feel like we have some other young adults that are also on the grant, and they would be able to help as well.
Fantastic. Those are some great suggestions, and they're listed up here. Annabelle, do you want to run us through the ones that are listed up here?
Sure.
Because it's
we do have several websites where people can get more information in terms of getting involved with both the Stay Together grant and with just in general with young adult movement. So we have the DMH website, the mass.gov DMH. We also have SAMHSA, who is our funders for this grant. UMass Medical School, which Sufiya referenced, and that's a transition and research training center. And they're led by national expert Marianne Davis on transition age young adults. There's also the PAL network. They're strong supporters for families and youth. And there's also the Transformation Center website and Youth Move on there. In addition, what didn't fit on the screen is the Children's Behavioral Health Initiative, and that can be accessed through mass.gov as well. And then another exciting website is one that youth and young adults have created themselves for other youth and young adults, and that's Speaking of Hope, and that's speakingofhope.org. Right?
Yep.
fantastic. And Sufiya had talked a little bit about that, Speaking of Hope, and how often does that happen? Where, if people are interested in Speaking of Hope, when does that happen?
We're still taking young adults and training them. It's actually been a really nice grant that I was able to work with my first year at the job, and I think that that was amazing because I met so many young adults that trained with us and then actually told their recovery story and felt just so free and so proud of themselves. So we are still training people to do Speaking of Hope. We're gonna have a grand finale in the summertime in August, like we had last year at RCC. So hopefully we book that venue again because we loved it. And so yeah, you guys should, if you're interested, definitely call us and or email us to get involved in the movement.
Fantastic. And the Transformation Center's number is 617-442-4111.
Yes.
One of those great easy numbers to remember. So people can check that out. And mass.gov is just kind of a basic one to if you're like, where do I go from here? If you weren't able to copy down all those emails right off the top, all those websites, that's a great one to access.
Yeah, it'll link you to any agency.
Link you to any agency, so that's a wonderful resource. Because some of the toughest things is to finding what's the right support for you. But to go to Speaking of Hope, and there's actually videos connected on YouTube. So you can go see some of the great speeches that have been already done, so you can learn about other people's recovery story and then find out how you can get involved. So Sufiya, if someone's on the couch or someone's in a chair and they're at their home and saying, they're kind of on the fence, should I get involved, should I not get involved, why is it important for people to get involved?
Well, I think it is so important for young adults to get involved because we need their voice. We need their impact. We need their addition because they are important and they have their own story. So I would encourage them to strongly get involved. And if they're feeling bad, still get involved because it can only make you feel better. And also, I forgot to mention, speaking of media outlets, we have a Speaking of Hope Facebook page.
Oh,
so,
great, okay.
If you are more into Facebook and all that stuff, you should try the Facebook and then / Speaking of Hope Project, and then you would get connected, or you can just look it up in the search, Speaking of Hope Project. So I felt good doing Speaking of Hope, the grant work, working with young adults. It was kind of like soothing and therapeutic for me. That's how I used as coping to help me in my recovery. And I've heard so many young adults that got involved with advocating say the same thing. So, I mean, even if you're experiencing symptoms and feeling depressed, this might be very therapeutic for you. So I would encourage you to get involved.
Fantastic, because through helping others, sometimes you feel better because you're less focused on yourself.
Exactly, Kim.
Yeah, no, that's a very key thing. and that's a good piece. You mentioned some wonderful social media outlets, and we should remind people of some social media outlets too of the
grant.
The grant.
Yes. The Twitter.
Yep.
Twitter as well, and that's going to be Stay Together 2.
Exactly.
If you go to Twitter, go to Stay Together 2, and you will be connected there, and you can follow us on Twitter.
Fantastic, and you can tweet, right?
Yes, you can tweet.
Follow the conversation.
Yes.
So if you like something on the show today and you want to pick up the conversation, tweet. We also are creating a Facebook page, so you can look us up on the Facebook under Stay Together as well. And we're soon to have a blogger on there as well. So there are many different ways for people to get involved, people to join the conversation. What advice would you have for a young adult who's just beginning their recovery and not sure, they're kind of in a challenging spot and they don't know where to go next? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would just say to believe in yourself. And I know it seems cliche, but really just believe in yourself. Remember who you were in the beginning, what you wanted, your goals, your dreams, and never give that up for anything, no matter what you experience, because you can still make it, and you never let anybody tell you you can't. You can.
So stay very driven, stay on task, see what you are. Now, Annabelle will ask you the same question in terms of support. If there was a young adult and just kind of not knowing where to turn, where would you tell them to turn in terms of DMH services or ways to begin if they're kind of feeling overwhelmed and not know what's right for them?
I feel like the same as Sufiya has mentioned, it's really important to help kind of get involved, and there's ways to do it where it's not necessarily a service piece of it just yet, but kind of in getting involved with some of the youth councils that Sufiya mentioned. It's kind of a good way to sort of network and meet other young adult peers. And then through that connection with young adult peers, they can also be probably one of the most important pieces of help in terms of trying to figure out where should you go next or what would be helpful to you. And then, of course, people can always contact any of the DMH offices to figure out what services or supports might be available that they can access.
Great, so there's kind of two routes to go. You can kind of go the official route through the DMH offices, but you can just go to a Speaking of Hope event, or you can go to, anyone's welcome to come to the councils that they happen right at the Department of Mental Health, and remind people of the address.
For the Department of Mental Health address? Or?
Yes, where the councils take place.
Oh, for the councils. Well, the councils are all across the state.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know the addresses off the top of my head,
Okay.
but there are several, like I said, across the state. And then the statewide Young Adult Council meets in Westboro at Tatnick Booksellers. And then Youth Move also has their chapter, and they meet in Worcester. So
Fantastic.
Get you the follow-up information if you wanted.
Okay, great. So contact you to really kind of begin. But that's a nice way where you can just really say, wow, I just kind of want to sit in and say, what's going on here? And find my voice and find my role. And so that's a great opportunity to do that. Fantastic. So as we wrap up, are there any final things? We'll turn to you, Sufiya. Is there anything that you want to leave with our viewers today to say kind of either, I guess really, why get involved with a grant specifically? Because we do need a lot of young adults. We need a lot of diverse young adults. So that we can better serve, that we can enhance the services that are there. Because I know there's a lot of people working extremely hard to help young adults, but we need the young adults to tell us because they're the experts in their own recovery. What would be of value for them in joining the grant specifically?
Well, actually, thank you, Kim. I just want to really say that when I'm saying it up here, it seems easy, that I've been through it, and maybe they're thinking this is really hard. It is really hard. I'm not going to lie to anyone. It's really hard, but the key to recovery and getting better and wellness is perseverance. Persevere through the tough times. Persevere through the times when you're unemployed, you're not in school, everything is going a mess. Just persevere because it will get better. And then also, I just want to say that we need people, we need young adults' voice on the grant because it will make it better, and it will make it better for everyone. Even if you already feel like you're so at the point of your recovery where you're done with mental health rights and you're done with dealing with this and you just don't want to be even associated with it, please get involved because you might help somebody. You might help somebody recover that really needs it. So.
Fantastic. So even if you're beginning your recovery, there's room for you. You don't have to have everything together. You can help and learn and get the support you need and still help others. Or if you're at the more advanced stages of your recovery and you feel like you are not sure if you still want to be affiliated, you have a lot to give back too. So there's room for everybody.
And spread the word, awareness, because you want to reduce the stigma as much as possible.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a great note to end on, is to really kind of reach out and say to people, you know, there's a real reason for everyone to work hard to reduce mental health stigma, and we all have to be a part of it. So fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Sufiya, for being on the show today. Thank you very much, Annabelle. You've really given us a lot to think about and a lot of great information, and we really appreciate it. And we'd like to also say thank you to our viewers for tuning in once again to Employment for All, where we feel that everyone can be successful with the right supports. And I hope you learned a lot about a lot of terrific services and supports today. And we'd like you to look out for that one person who might just need that extra support to reach their full potential, and you might be a key to their success. So thank you very much also to the Department of Mental Health for sponsoring Employment for All. We look forward to seeing you again next week. This is Kim Bissett saying have a great day.